It's been a very, very warm day today. Look, we've had a really good series of engagements here in Tonga with not just the Prime Minister. We've always had a good friendship and a good relationship, and that continues to deepen. But I'm really excited by the broader, deeper relationships we have with the Tongan Cabinet as well. I think you can see we're very committed to the country with our investments in education and health and climate, but also in agriculture as well. And you can see we've got real work that is underway with respect to transnational organised crime and drugs, as I've spoken about. But also there's been huge interest in the education of education, particularly the work that we've been doing on getting our system to go back to basics and to focus on numeracy and literacy. And I suspect off the back of this visit there'll be visits from the Education Minister here and other ministers to come down to New Zealand. I want to see a much broader relationship that deals with an all-of-government response to both sides. So it's been a really encouraging 3 or 4 days in Samoa and also in Tonga. And I think we leave here very proud of the relationship, and more importantly, actually we've got real content to continue to partner in and to work with as well. So, but with that, happy to take your questions.
A bit of a spend with transnational crime. How important was it to balance that New Zealand security and the security of Tonga?
Yeah, look, it's been, as you know, there's sort of two parts to it. The first is really stopping the drugs at sea, stopping them at the border and disrupting inside country. And, the work that we've done with Starboard in particular, which gives us a common software to be able to monitor vessels moving in and out of the Pacific, and hopefully you got a sense from Trent about how that sort of system works. And then the other part of it, which I think is important, is also getting some support through the Salvation Army into the rehabilitation services as well, because yes, we've got to stop the drugs coming into country and disrupt all of that, but we've also got to help people who are with addiction and rehabilitation services as well. Sorry.
How is that work affected by other nations jostling to sign their own police? China in particular. Does it make it harder to?
Not really. I mean, I think you see in Tonga and also in Samoa, there's a real affinity with New Zealand. You see it in our Defence Force arrangements with His Majesty Defence Forces here in Tonga, and the close association with our own New Zealand Defence Force. We've trained together. There's just a natural affinity, and so while we've had a Pacific Policing Initiative program put together, we obviously have a strong bilateral relationship as well. But more importantly, rather than just having the mechanisms, it's important to have the content to work together on. And over the last 6 to 9 months, post the Pacific Policing Initiative, and the chiefs all working much more closely together, we've really wanted to go to work on the drug side, and I'm really pleased with the progress that we're making.
Do you get a sense that Samoa and Tonga are starting to get on top of it, or were these sort of initiatives and signings what will sort of help them actually get on top of it?
Yeah, look, it's just relentless. I mean, we've got the narco drug families coming in from South America. They're coming in because it's an attractive market now, and that's been it's unprecedented, some of the stuff that we've been seeing. But again, we've got to come together and work together on it. And I think there's actually, you're seeing it today. With the commitment around the dogs, the commitment around the Starboard, monitoring of maritime awareness and surveillance. All of those tools now are becoming available and being made available to everybody. And so we've got one common approach, whether it's Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji. Increasingly, we want to work together, the 5 of us.
Given Australia and New Zealand's sort of demand for drugs has helped contribute to creating a Pacific corridor, is there a sense in your discussions today that this is sort of the least that we could really do?
Well, actually, it's also impacting the communities here across the region as well, and there's some you're seeing a really big rise in HIV, in particular in some of the countries through the Pacific as well. So, really it's started from conversations that I've had on visits with different leaders in the past who have raised those concerns that they're seeing the effects of drugs in their own communities for the first time, and are very concerned about it and very alarmed about it. And so being able to have a common approach to how we tackle that, working together, I think is really important.
Prime Minister, just on another topic, family has been a big thing
Yeah.
throughout this trip. Do you think it's disingenuous, though, to have tougher visa requirements for these Pacific nations that we're calling families in 60 other countries that we have no cultural ties to? Do you think that is at all disingenuous?
No, again, as I've addressed this, through the visit, obviously visas is an issue that has been raised with me with Pacific leaders for for the last 2 years. But our government has been more liberal than any other previous government in opening up opportunities to make visas much easier to access at lower costs for longer duration, and also recognising Australian visas. That's been greatly appreciated across the region. As I said, we also need to have a risk-based immigration system that's smart, and that is why it has worked very well for New Zealand over a number of years under successive governments. You've seen when you don't get legal migration and you don't have a good management system, what happens in other countries and the challenges that causes. So, we will continue to look at things that we can do, as we have done over the last 24 months as we go forward, to make it easier and to facilitate movement of people across the Pacific. But I think we've got our settings right. It's a smart, balanced approach.
Lord Faatalanoaga seemed less.
One of the arguments, I guess, from your government to not have visa-free travel is the discomfort state. Do you have rigorous data to back up that claim?
Well, again, we look at, there's 195 countries in the world, and our immigration system is dynamic, and we are constantly assessing the risk, and it's actually a risk-based driven system. That's what drives the decisions around immigration policy. And so every country has a risk assessment. That can change, it can evolve, but we're informed by that. And I think that's what's made New Zealand's immigration system very successful. I can look around the world and I can talk about the challenges that are happening in many other countries where immigration is a major issue. In New Zealand, we've got very good support for immigration amongst our own population because it's smart, it's balanced, and we manage it well.
Lord Faatalanoaga seemed less bothered by it than Nuku'alofa. Do you get the sense that it is of bigger concern for some Pacific nations than it is for others?
Look, I mean, I know it's a big issue. You guys as media have raised it with me on this trip, but in my own conversations, there's huge appreciation for what we've done. I mean, when you double the amount of a visitor visa with a multiple entry option, when you open it up to Australia, when you have a 3 times faster processing with a fast track option, and you also lower the cost by 25%, all of those things have been greatly appreciated because previous New Zealand governments haven't offered that to the community and to the Pacific. We have consistently looked at making our immigration system, tight and well balanced and smart. But as a result of that, we're able to move dynamically and agilely, as we've seen, to loosen up and make things more liberal where we can.
Did Cabinet formally approve the decision to reject the WHO's pandemic rule changes?
Sorry, I just haven't caught up with where we are on that at this point in time yet.
It's been formally communicated to the WHO.
Sorry?
It's been formally communicated to the WHO. We're one of just 12 nations to reject the rules. Would you not expect to know about it?
Well, we have had discussions about that in cabinet committees, but again, I'm not sure. I just want to be sure about 1 in 12 countries and who has or hasn't. I haven't caught up with all that part of it.
Simon, are you going to be attending later this year?
Yes, I hope to. Obviously, it's a little bit contingent upon the election and what's happening at that time. We'll have a look at it closer to the time. If not, we'll make sure we've got representation. And the exciting thing is that New Zealand's going to host it in 2027, and that's a marvellous opportunity because my good friend Lawrence Wong is hosting ASEAN in 2027 as well, and I want to bring the two regions together and find some mechanism to be able to do that as well. No, my schedule will get confirmed closer into the time, as always. It's our protocol. So, but either way, we'll make sure we've got good representation there.
Given we're part of the Troika, you'd probably be leaning towards going more than not.
Well, again, to be honest, guys, as you know, we don't confirm or lock in my schedule until quite close for announcement for a number of reasons. So, yeah.
Prime Minister, going back to education, you mentioned going back to basics. How important is it for you in New Zealand to track agencies such as 505 to put together resources for communities such as Tonga?
Yeah, really important. Again, what our learning is in New Zealand is if you want to bring students through that can access high-paying AI-driven jobs in the future, you kind of have to teach them to read and to do maths first. And so sometimes we get very caught up with the new and exciting rather than actually focusing on the basics. And we need to do both, obviously, and we can do both. But it's just also been important. Get the kids to school, teach them maths, teach them to read. Then they've got the platform and the foundations that they need to then embrace more STEM subjects and obviously to set themselves up for a great future in an AI world.
Given that Antonio has accepted the petition for visa-free travel, have you had conversations with him following that petition presentation about visa-free travel?
Well, basically our policy is very simple. It's now put into a select committee process, as you know, for the next 6 months or so. And as you said, the Minister of Immigration will receive the report back from the select committee and have a consideration at that point in time.
Has your time in the Pacific given you a bit of a breather off the back of some whole polling?
Oh, well, it's just my job is to get on each and every day and go out and do what I need to do. And that's when I'm out here overseas, it's really about advancing New Zealand's interests and building relationships and partnerships in a world that's pretty volatile and uncertain. And, we come away from here with a very strong set of alignment between Samoa, Tonga and New Zealand. And, that's a very important part of my job. Yeah. That was really special. He's obviously very experienced. He's very knowledgeable on a range of topics. I won't go into the protocol as we don't divulge those conversations, but it was a real privilege and a great honour to meet with him, and we had a very, very stimulating conversation.
Quickly from the gallery, how important is it for children of politicians
being kept out of any scandals?
Look, I'm aware of the conversation back at home. I'm not going to comment on that. That's really an issue for Chris Hipkins, and I'm focused on things of the country.
Families, is it important for families to be kept out of injury or toxicity?
Yeah, I think so, and that's why I won't comment on it.
Prime Minister.
Helen Clark has stated yesterday that the Ireland and New Zealand's relationship is not more.
Sorry, what?
Helen Clark mentioned that New Zealand and Cook Islands' relationship is not beyond repair.
Well, with all respect, Helen Clark was Prime Minister 20 years ago, and the world's moved on, and we don't need Helen Clark's help. Thank you very much.
Does that mean it is?
Sorry?
She said it's not beyond repair.
No. I mean, I don't take advice from Helen Clark on foreign policy, firstly. I know she likes to contribute on lots of it, and she may be the Labour Party's spokesperson on foreign affairs, but she's not New Zealand's spokesperson. I'm very confident our officials have been working constructively with Cook Islands. We continue to work towards a place that's mutually achievable for both of us, and we'll continue that work.
Prime Minister, how would you reflect on the United States' engagement or lack thereof in the Pacific, and has that been a discussion with the leaders during this time?
Well, I think there's, as we've said, we're in a multipolar world that's moved away from a multilateral world in some ways, and so for us it's actually finding like-minded partners, which is why trips like this are really important, because you get to have some really decent conversations and alignment conversations as well around some of the geopolitical pressures small countries like New Zealand and the Pacific Island nations are facing. And what we've been learning is the more that we can buddy up and work together with like-minded countries that have similar values to us and work together on the problems and challenges that we have in our Pacific region and get Pacific solutions to Pacific challenges, that's really a very important part of what we're doing.
Is New Zealand pushing the US to re-engage though? It was only a few years ago that we had Kamala Harris dialing into a PIF. Donald Trump's second administration's pulled back a lot. So what's New Zealand's position in terms of the US re-engaging?
Oh, look,
and how
we
hard are
think
working
it's
behind
really
the scenes?
important. We want to see the US engaged in the region. We want to see France engaged in the region. We understand there are other people, big powers that want to engage in the region as well. Our message is very simple, though, that the way they engage with this region is through the Pacific Island Forum. It's through PIF centrality, as we call it, and actually it'll be the Pacific that solves Pacific challenges with Pacific solutions. And so we feel very strongly about that, and that's why I think you've seen from both New Zealand and also Australia a real step up in engagement in the Pacific, very deliberately so, because we are all in this together, and and it's important that we work on some of the challenges that we're all facing.
Is that also necessary?
Sorry.
Do you want to see the US at the next PIF?
Oh, look, I mean, PIF has got, we've been trying to work out how we deal with dialogue partners that are outside the PIF family. It's really important that PIF dynamic continues to evolve as it has been. It's been working and improving each and every year, and then how we engage with dialogue partners so that we're not dominated by them, but we actually, as I said, have the centrality of PIF at the heart of everything, and then we can engage with dialogue partners. The model for me is very similar to what we see in ASEAN. Like there's a core set of ASEAN countries. There's 7 or 8 dialogue partners, New Zealand being one of them, and obviously we have very formal engagements in that way.
Prime Minister, just elections, can we expect more Pacific people on your list?
Sorry?
Can we expect more Pacific people on the national?
Yeah, I hope so. We've got a great set of candidates that will be emerging, and we've had some great candidates in 2023 that ran for us as well, and I hope we get to see a lot of great Pacific talent.
Acknowledge that you're planning to more Pacific people. I mean,
Oh.
like this, the only MPs that are Pacific are in position.
Well, again, we've got work to do, as all parties do. Not every party is representative of the population of New Zealand, and it needs to be, and we're working hard at that. And when you think about where we were in 2020, and you think about where we've got to in 2023, and the work that the party's done between now and 2026. So, I'm hopeful we'll have some great set of candidates.
How would you describe the differences in your relationship with the two different PMs, your approach, your engagements with them, what you're taking out of this trip?
Oh, look, I mean, strong. I mean, in both cases. I mean, my job as a Prime Minister of New Zealand is to work with every leader that I engage with. They're all different personalities. They all have different traits and characteristics. And my job is to find a way to make sure we build rapport and have a relationship regardless. And so, I think about all the relations, not just here in the Pacific with Samoa and Tonga, but the ones that I have with the European leaders or the Asian leaders. It's the same thing. So, I really enjoy that part of the job, which is, building rapport, building relationship, because it's quite a small group of Prime Ministers, and it can often be quite a good peer support group where you can have conversations that you may not have with many other people as a consequence. Okay, team, thanks so much. We'll see you on the plane, eh?